On a cold winter day in Boston, January 15, 1919, an ordinary afternoon turned into a scene of surreal chaos as a massive wave of molasses swept through the streets. This unexpected catastrophe, known as the Great Molasses Flood, left a lasting mark on the city and its residents. This is a story not just of an industrial accident, but of human error, corporate negligence, and the resilience of a community in the face of an unimaginable disaster. The build-up, Boston's molasses boom. In the early 20th century, molasses was a vital commodity in the United States. It was used extensively in the production of industrial alcohol, which in turn was essential for the munitions industry during World War I. Boston, with its strategic port and industrial infrastructure, was a hub for molasses storage and distribution. The Purity Distilling Company, a subsidiary of United States Industrial Alcohol, USIA, played a central role in this booming industry. To meet the growing demand, the company constructed a massive storage tank in the north end of Boston in 1915. This tank, standing 50 feet tall and 90 feet in diameter, had a capacity of 2.3 million gallons of molasses. It was an engineering marvel of its time, but it was also a ticking time bomb. The disaster strikes. On that fateful January day, the temperature had risen sharply, from the freezing cold of the previous days to an unseasonably warm 40 degrees Fahrenheit. This sudden change caused the molasses inside the tank to expand, increasing the internal pressure. At around 12:30 p.m., residents and workers in the area heard a low rumble, followed by a series of sharp cracking sounds. The steel tank, poorly constructed and inadequately maintained, could no longer contain the enormous pressure. It burst open with a thunderous roar, unleashing a tsunami of molasses. A wave of molasses, estimated to be 25 feet high at its peak, cascaded through the streets at a speed of 35 miles per hour. Buildings were crushed, people and animals were swept away, and the neighborhood was engulfed in a sticky, suffocating mess. The force of the wave was so immense that it lifted a truck and flung it into Boston Harbor. The aftermath: chaos and heroism. The immediate aftermath of the flood was sheer chaos. The densely populated North End, home to many Italian immigrants, was hit hardest. People were trapped in their homes, buried under debris, or struggling to stay afloat in the molasses. The thick, viscous substance made rescue efforts extraordinarily difficult. It took hours for help to arrive, and even then, rescuers found themselves sinking into the molasses, their movements slowed to a crawl. Despite the challenges, acts of heroism abounded. Police, firefighters, soldiers from a nearby barracks, and even ordinary citizens joined the rescue efforts. They worked tirelessly, often at great personal risk, to save those trapped in the molasses. One account tells of a firefighter who, covered in molasses from head to toe, rescued a child by carrying them to safety through the sticky mire. The toll: human and environmental impact. The Great Molasses Flood claimed the lives of 21 people and injured 150 others. The victims ranged from children playing in the streets to workers on their lunch breaks. Many of the deceased were so coated in molasses that identification was a slow and difficult process. The thick, syrupy substance clogged the harbor, polluted the waterways, and coated the buildings. The cleanup efforts took weeks, with workers using salt water to dissolve the molasses and sand to provide traction on the sticky streets. The environmental impact was severe. The molasses seeped into the soil and water, creating long-lasting damage. For years, the area was plagued by the sweet, sickly smell of molasses. The psychological impact on the community was profound as well. Survivors recounted the horror of the flood, the sight of loved ones being swept away, and the struggle to rebuild their lives in the aftermath. The investigation, accountability and reform. In the wake of the disaster, public outrage was directed at the Purity Distilling Company and its parent company, USIA. The tank had been poorly constructed, with steel walls too thin to contain the massive quantity of molasses. It had leaked from the start, but instead of addressing the structural issues, the company had simply painted the tank brown to hide the leaks. The investigation revealed a shocking level of negligence and disregard for safety. The resulting lawsuits marked one of the first instances of a class action suit in the United States. The court proceedings lasted for over 5 years, during which 3,000 witnesses were called, and 45,000 pages of testimony were recorded. In 1925, the court found USIA responsible for the disaster, citing the company's failure to ensure the structural integrity of the tank. USIA was ordered to pay $628,000 in damages, equivalent to roughly $9 million today. The Great Molasses Flood led to significant changes in building regulations and safety standards. It underscored the importance of rigorous inspections, proper maintenance, and accountability in industrial operations. The disaster also highlighted the need for better urban planning and emergency response strategies. The legacy: lessons from the Molasses Flood. The Great Molasses Flood remains a poignant reminder of the potential consequences of corporate negligence and the importance of safety regulations. It is a story that speaks to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of disaster. The community's response, marked by acts of bravery and solidarity, showcase the best of humanity in the worst of circumstances. Today, the site of the flood is a quiet neighborhood, with little to remind visitors of the tragedy that once unfolded there. A small plaque commemorates the event, ensuring that the memory of those who suffered and the lessons learned are not forgotten. The flood has also become a part of Boston's rich historical tapestry, a story told and retold, serving as a cautionary tale and a testament to the enduring strength of the city's residents. In the annals of history, the Great Molasses Flood of 1919 stands out as a bizarre and tragic event. It is a story that continues to fascinate and horrify, a sticky chapter in the chronicles of Boston. As we reflect on this disaster, we are reminded of the delicate balance between progress and safety, and the human cost when that balance is disrupted.